LifeSpeak podcast sponsored by Chaffin Real Estate Services. Looking to make your next move? You're in the right place. Welcome to LifeSpeaks, the podcast that dives deep into real stories, big ideas, and life-changing insights. This episode is proudly brought to you by Chaffin Real Estate Services, ready to find your dream home or maximize your rental income. Visit chaffinrealestate.com or call 775-575-5000 today.
Hi, welcome to LifeSpeaks podcast, where we tell stories, chat with each other about life's highs and lows. And my name's Lee Anne Chaffin. And today I'm here with my friend Nicki Miller. We are both wearing pink in honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And we both, I don't want to say survived it, because we're both living abundantly after it. I have been free from cancer for 18 years, and Nicki?
This just a couple weeks ago was 10 years for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Isn't that amazing?
Amazing.
Yeah.
It seems so long ago, but it seems like yesterday.
Yes. Mine was marked by an odd, was the flood that they had in Fernley,
Oh.
Nevada.
Yeah.
So a lot of you who don't know Nevada, that was quite a day. Anyways, everything was crazy that day. Mm-hmm. And even my mind was a little crazy that day. So we're just going to kind of go back. I don't like always going back, but we're trying to help somebody here. Also, to let you know that there will be links in the description or in the comments for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. There's lots of resources there. I remember even getting free wigs, and there's also help with money. There's so many foundations that help.
Yeah.
So if you would, this is really geared to help someone who may have just gotten the diagnosis, or maybe you're in a part where it's just very scary, and we both understand that. So can you take me back to the moment where you found out that you were diagnosed?
Yeah, I was 45 years old, and I just went to my doctor for my regular checkup and got my mammogram paper, and I stuck it in the back of my calendar, thinking I would do it when the boys went back to school. I had 3 boys in high school at that time, and but then I started having a lot of pain in my right breast, and I thought maybe I should get it checked out. And I had clear ones before, so I called to try to make an appointment, and one of the questions they asked was, "Is there any pain?" And I said, "Well, actually, yes." And so they said, "Oh, then we can't see you. You need to go back to your doctor to get a 3D mammogram." So I went to the doctor. She did an exam. We couldn't feel anything, but she ordered a 3D mammogram also. And I don't know what prompted me to ask her if there was something else I could have, but she talked to me about the ultrasound. So I said, well, she said, but insurance doesn't cover it. And I said, well, how much is it? And she said, $125. I'm like, give it to me then.
Yeah.
So the regular ultrasound didn't find it. The 3D ultrasound didn't find it. You couldn't feel it in a breast exam, but it was that the 3D mammogram couldn't find it, but it was that ultrasound that ultimately found it. But the ironic thing was the pain was in the right breast, but the cancer was in the left. So I would say that was like the first time I felt God's hand on my situation. So yeah, that's how it came about.
So what were your emotions?
My emotions, I would say the first 3 or 4 days were much different than the rest of the journey. So the first, dumbfounded, you can't believe it. It can't be true. Crying. I would wake up in the middle of the night and my cheeks would be wet. I was just crying in my sleep. Fear. My husband and I kind of just latched on to each other because just kind of holding on for dear life. And then there's all the unknown. And cancer is like the waiting game. So you get the diagnosis, but then everything takes so long to get things moving. So I would say very fearful and sad. I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I can relate to those
Yeah.
feelings. When was the first procedure? Did you have to have a biopsy?
Well, and that was funny too because they called me back and said I need to have a biopsy, but I hadn't heard the word cancer yet. So I got there, and a friend who was a nurse there met me and said she's, cleared her schedule for the day. And I was just like, oh, I have the best friends in the world. But I guess everybody knew I had cancer. They thought I had been told that I had cancer.
Oh, my goodness.
But I was just I'm like, it's just a biopsy, right? You didn't have to clear your day. Like, it's not a big deal. And then they did the biopsy, and then the gentleman who did it asked if I had called an oncologist yet. And I said, wait, why do I need an oncologist? We don't even have the biopsy results back. And then you could just see everybody's eyes, get as big as saucers. And I said, is it cancer? And my friend who had cleared her schedule said yes. So that was kind of the starting date. That was July 15th. I think all of our days are like
marked.
And then the whole time my diagnosis was considered, complicated, unusual. They couldn't tell if it was lobular or ductal. And then I decided that maybe I wanted to go to UCSF just to kind of have a second opinion. So that took a little bit longer, but I ended up having a bilateral mastectomy August 22nd, and then I started chemo in September.
So you did not have to do radiation then?
No radiation for me.
So I'm going to kind of mirror what the questions are. I had just had two beautiful grandsons, 6 weeks apart.
Oh.
And it was Christmas. And I remember having pictures with them, but I wasn't feeling well. I was pale. And I had my normal mammogram scheduled for December. For some reason, it got delayed until December, which is usually, I try to do it in October. And they stopped the mammogram, or after the mammogram, they said, please sit down and we're going to come back with results. And then they came back, and she said, we're just thinking that we need to do an ultrasound. We saw something, but we tried to smash it out like it was maybe a cyst or something. And I went, okay. And then to the medical field, I would like to tell you, you need a bedside manner training, because the ultrasound doctor or person said, oh, yeah, you have cancer. And I'm laying there. I'm like, what? I mean, I didn't even have an idea. I didn't feel a lump. I didn't have any it wasn't even in my wheelhouse, you know what I mean? And I said, what? And he says, yeah, you can see it right here. Like, it was the worst experience for someone being unkind to someone who, so I was not happy. I was 48 years old, so that'll give you, and I'm 66 now, so that's been 18 years. My mom and my niece were out in the mammogram room. Oh, and I missed something. So I did the mammogram in the 20th of December. And then they called me and they said, well, we need to retake a picture. And I went, oh, okay. So that was after, it was December 26th when I had this happen. Yeah, right after Christmas. And it was something magical. I don't want to say magical, but it was magical that Christmas with the boys and the toys. And oh my goodness, it was just the best Christmas. And I was so excited. And, when you find your happy place, you go, that's my happy place, holding these two beautiful boys. And they just turned 18.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah. Anyways, so his last words to me after telling me I had cancer was, you need to call a surgeon. Well, okay, I don't have a surgeon. So I walked out of the room and I told my mom and my niece And my mom goes, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I have to call a surgeon, but we need to do some shopping therapy. And so I remember we had New York and Company here, and we went straight there. And I'm like, okay, this is the day.
Yeah.
And I had to tell my husband over the phone. He'd gone through prostate cancer, so he says, don't worry, we're gonna fight this. So.
It is interesting how they just lay that on you, and then there's no game plan. And I remember struggling with that. I called my OBGYN and said, like, who helps me with this?
There should
who
be
gives me
like a wedding planner. You should have a breast cancer planner. I like that idea. We should open a business.
Well, I think they're starting. I think it's starting to happen. But he said, I will do that. I will be that for you. But then I could never get a hold of him.
Oh.
So it actually was friends in the medical field who helped me
Guide
with
you
next
through.
steps. Yeah. It's because same thing. I needed a surgeon.
Right.
And I just didn't understand how it all worked. Do you meet with the oncologist or the surgeon? Like, what's the order? That was tricky for me.
So you had spoken about how you were in fear and tears. I was told also to go to a plastic surgeon. So a surgeon and to remove, and then a plastic surgeon. But, it's kind of like, your hair's like on fire. It feels like your hair is on fire because you don't know what to do next, just like I said. But I remember I had 30 days at least of night terrors. And I didn't know what night terrors were until I had them, which is fearful dreams of death. And I'm thinking, I'm laying in bed one day going, God, I prayed. I said, God, what am I afraid of? And I heard him say, you're afraid to die. And I laid there for a minute and I went, I'm not afraid to die. I'm not afraid to die. And all of a sudden, it was like I'm going to Disneyland. Like if I die, I go to heaven. And I thought all these fears just fell away. I had the joy of the Lord all of a sudden, like I'd never had in my whole life. And I said, I don't want to leave my kids or my grandkids, but I'm not afraid to die. And so it was this marker of, okay, no matter what happens here, I'm going to be okay.
I had a similar situation. So I would wake up in the middle of the night, and I said my face was just wet. And I would go out on the couch, with my good dog Cooper, and I would just cry. And then I don't audibly hear God often. It's happened just a sprinkling of times in my life.
That's what I mean. Me too.
This was one time, and I was just sitting there, and I audibly heard, do you believe I am who I say I am?
Ooh.
And I had a choice to make right then. And I just said, yes. It was like, here's the line, girl, where are you standing? And I just thought, yes, I believe you are who you say you are.
Yes.
And I thought, I didn't know if he was going to heal me this side of heaven, but I knew he was going to heal me. And so it was in that moment, and I kind of documented it all on Facebook, so it's been interesting to go back and read that. But it was in that moment that I just said out loud, I will glorify your name through this season. And I didn't know what that season was going to look like, but I knew it would give me opportunity to give God the glory and just bring his name to the light. And so I just promised then and there that wherever I went, whatever surgeries, procedures I had, that I would give him all the glory.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And fear left. And that doesn't mean it didn't come up again, here or there, but that fear just left because I knew where I'd be going, but I was exactly like you. I kind of started making deals with God, and I know he's not a deal maker, but
he's a way maker.
Yeah, right. And I would say, well, when I went to my oncologist, I brought him a framed photo of my boys, and I said, this is why I need to live. So do whatever you have to do to me to let me see.
Is the doctor ready?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And then, so that was just kind of it. I was going to do whatever it took. So the deal making, I was like, if I could just see them graduate from high school, like I would be so grateful. Yes. And then it was like, could I just see them graduate from college? Like I would be so grateful. And then, and I know God doesn't work this way, and then it was like, if I could just meet the girls that you have chosen for them,
God bless.
like I would just, you could take me then, and now my deal is like, hey, like I'd really love
a grandbaby.
Yeah. And I don't want, I said, I don't want to just know them. I want to be known by them.
Yes.
So then that means I need a little more time, but I'm like you, I know where I'm going and I'll be okay when it's time.
Yes. That's awesome. So your procedure or your surgery, actually, and you chose a double mastectomy.
I did.
Or did they tell you to have one?
I had to fight for a double mastectomy.
Okay.
I ended up going to San Francisco UCSF for my surgeries and reconstruction, and then I did my chemotherapy here in Reno. And I just thought, because of my age, 45, I didn't have breast cancer history in my family. I just thought that would really mess with my mind. And so my friends in the medical profession said, they're going to tell you, they're just going to take one. So you need to go in and be able to argue why you wanted both. And so I chose to have both and kind of fought to get that.
I had gone to the surgeon. It's kind of a fog in a way, because I went to the first surgeon, and I did not like her, because she started to declare over my daughter that she would be next. And I looked at her and I said, you're not God. You're not going to declare over my daughter. I said, we'll get testing, but you're not going to tell her that she's going to have cancer. So it does not run in our family. And I left her. And I went to a different surgeon, and she was amazing. And then I went to I had to make a decision what to do. And I was standing in my bathroom, and I said, God, I really, really don't know what to do. Because I was on my way to the plastic surgeon. And I heard him clearly, have a lumpectomy and trust me. Well, the cancer that I had was very aggressive. It was very small, but it had not spread anywhere. It was not in my ducts, as far as I knew. That would come later after the surgery. And I'm just standing there going, I'm going to the doctor right now for a mastectomy. I mean, literally, that's what I thought I was going to see, mastectomy pictures and tattoos of, the nipples and everything. That's where I thought it was headed. And so I got out of I saw all the pictures, and Dr. Keener was amazing. And I said, I'll let you know. And then I talked to my husband, and I said, I'm having a lumpectomy, and I'm going to trust God. And he just went, okay. So I led the way, except for I did not hear God about having chemotherapy. I didn't hear him at all about that. I thought, I'm cancer-free. But my family was like white on rice, and they would not let me go without chemotherapy. So that's a whole nother part of the story. So how long was your healing after your mammograms? Your mastectomies?
Before chemo? Or
before chemotherapy, because you had to do the healing, right?
So I guess the mastectomy, and then I think I started chemo about 8 weeks later.
And you were all healed?
Well, I still had like the, what are they called? The spacers in there.
Yeah, for reconstruction.
Yeah, the reconstruction. So, but they wouldn't do any of that. That was all at a standstill until chemo was over, and I was a little bit stronger from that.
Okay.
Expanders.
So
that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. What was your first experience for your first chemo? What were you feeling? Did God help you through that, or?
I told you that the fear would come back.
Yes.
Occasionally. It wasn't the first chemo that was fearful, because you're not really afraid of what you don't know. It was the second one that I could barely open the door to get back in the building.
Yeah.
In fact, after the first one, I thought, how am I going to tell my husband that I'm not going to do this anymore?
Yeah.
That I'm one and done. But then, there's a little bit of time spaced out and you feel
Kinda like having a
you
baby.
feel a little bit better. Yeah. And then you go to it. So fear for sure after the first one. And each time was so different, the side effects, that you just never knew what you were going to get. So it was the fear of the unknown, maybe more than the fear of the chemo.
Did they test you for the BRCA gene and all that?
Yep. And I don't carry it.
Yeah, I don't carry it either, thank
Yeah.
God. Mine was very close to triple negative.
Oh.
And that's why I went to UCSF too for a third opinion, because I had two opinions here.
Yeah.
They both said it will give you an additional 10%, that's all, for a good outcome. I went 10%. And my daughter said, 10%'s 10%, Mom.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, okay. There is a verse in the Bible that says that you'll know them because they will drink poison and it will not hurt them. And that was my verse I hung on to. I went, okay. So the day, I was really sick before my first chemo. I'd had surgery in January, and then March, I had my first chemo. And I was very sick with some kind of weird flu. I think it was stress. And I told my kids I'm going to have my head shaved or my hair cut very short before my first chemo. And so we made it a haircut. And I wish I could find the picture. I'm going to try to dig it up for this podcast, is my son and myself with very short hair. And he says, see, Mom, I do look like you. And he wore his hair shorn. But I think for me, and I try to put it out of my mind now because I had 4, they called them double ups. They did 8 chemos in 4 sessions.
Wow.
They were trying to kill me, is what I felt. So I was on Benadryl and steroids at the same time to keep the allergic reaction down because I'm allergic to everything. And did they do that for you?
Just one time I had a reaction, but the nurses were right there. I think it's so important to mention in this podcast that a bit of advice, or a doctor, one of the surgeons that I met with here in town said it was important to remember that every cancer story is different.
Yes.
And that people are going to try to, you can listen to our cancer story, but
It's totally
everyone's different. Like every chemo cocktail is different. And so,
I wish it was a cocktail.
yeah, I call it a chemo
Yeah,
cocktail.
I know.
But I think that's important to remember, that that every experience is so different.
What was the worst part for you in the whole picture of it as far as your femininity?
Oh, I didn't have a problem losing my hair. Interestingly enough, that was not, in fact, I went wig shopping with a friend who was diagnosed on the exact same day.
Really?
And we went into the wig shop. Well, I went to a couple wig shoppings with friends, and I found cute ones. But I just had I had a bunch of young girls in my life, and I didn't want them to think that I was hiding this or I was ashamed of the way I looked. And so for me, a wig was not an option. I just didn't wear one. And the funny enough, the worst part for me was the port to get the chemo in.
How many chemos did you end up
I had
having?
4.
You had 4.
And it just was very foreign to me. That was my least favorite part. But the femininity part of it, I mean, it's hard. You look in the mirror, you don't have breasts, you don't have hair, you don't have eyebrows, you don't have eyelashes, your fingernails have fallen off. Yes. And so it's interesting. One day I got out of the shower and I just kind of looked at myself in the mirror, and I had such like sorrow for the girl looking back in the mirror. I just had such empathy, and I spoke out loud, "Oh, you poor thing. Your body looks like a battlefield, like just scars everywhere. But then there's that song called Scars,
Yes.
by I Am They. And it says, I'm thankful for the scars, for they remind me who you are. And so that song kind of became my anthem. And so I started looking at my body differently, like more as like a warrior or just a, somebody who battled fiercely. And I didn't always like how it looked, but I was proud of how it looked.
Right. That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, I was the vain one.
Yeah.
And I got out of I think it was the surgeon's office, the oncologist office, because I had surgery to oncology, and I knew that I was going to lose my hair, and called my pastors on the phone, and they're on speakerphone with my husband, and they go, it's going to be okay, and I said, yeah, but I'm going to lose my hair. It was just blonde and long, and I was like was heartbroken. I've always had really long hair. Not always, but in this case. So it was really hard for me. And then they also told me that I would go straight into menopause. And I thought, well, I guess that's okay, because I really not going to have any more babies. But I remember this one day, seriously, as a heart attack. I'm sitting there, no hair, bald as a billiard ball, because I didn't like wearing wigs either. They itched. I would like the do-rags and scarves and all that. It was cold, though, when I was having chemo. So
cold
I was
without hair.
Yeah, it was so cold, especially sleeping. So I had some sweet friends that had made me some hats. And so much support. I'll ask you that in just a minute. But I was sitting there eating my breakfast, and all of a sudden, it was like there was a river of water that was flowing down my face from a hot flash. I'm like, I looked at my husband and said, could this be any more attractive?
Like, come on. Is this not enough?
And I'm just sitting there. If I could have cried and laughed at the same time, it would have been, comedy. But it was like, really? So, anyway, so tell me, like, the support that came your way, was it amazing?
Yes. This be the part that makes me cry.
Yeah.
I have my best friends, which I call my core, and I called each one of them, and they'll say to you, I can remember exactly where I was the minute you called. And they just went into action. And one friend started calling, UCSF and different hospitals, and just to see what's the best thing for me. Another a sweet lady at the police department started really handling insurance for us. We had dinners delivered every night from July 15th until December probably 20th.
Meal trains?
Just like people would come, and they would make, a friend called and said, what can I do for you? And I said, my boys, I need them to have home-baked cookies.
Oh, my
so
goodness.
They all got together, and I had cookies delivered to my boys every week, and people mowed our lawn and taught our son how to drive, because it was that time, he was learning, and took him to his driving test, and did our laundry and donuts delivered for my boys. I feel like, and that was just my core friend. That wasn't even my church family. Like, they came to my home and prayed over me and anointed me. And when I told them this gets me, I was waking up in the middle of the night, they set their alarms like every 30 minutes. And they would wake up, one at 2, one at 2:30, one at 3, one at 3:30, and pray for me so that I could sleep. And I did, so, and then, Summit is a wonderful church family, but
we're so fortunate.
We that is the biggest, and I'm somebody who gives, and I don't receive.
It's hard to
easily.
receive, yeah.
And I think maybe that was a lesson that I needed in my life, that it's important to accept help. Also because I had friends pretend they were me and call and make appointments, and it was just, they took so much off our plate so that we could just address what was happening in the moment.
Well, we're going to take a break here. We're going to end this episode.
Okay.
And I just want to thank you so much for sharing your heart. We're going to continue in the next episode.
Okay, great.